Hi guys, it's Rob from Royal Balls, and as advertised I do have a further video on substrates and hides. I got quite a few questions on substrates and hides and why didn't I try different kinds of hides, different kinds of substrates, and do substrates actually help with rollout eggs? We're in the middle of the breeding season here. I've had a couple more clutches on different substrates and different setups, and I'm here to show you the results. So this is the default location for all my Gravid females when they are getting close to laying eggs. You see they just go underneath the newspaper, and I've discovered that putting substrate in here makes no difference. They don't like to use it. They'll just dive underneath the paper anyway and get themselves right down to the bottom of the tub. This female is looking fantastic. This is my pastel inchy clown female. Really looking forward to this clutch. But we won't disturb her anymore. We're not going to give her substrate. We're going to leave her as she is there and let her lay her eggs underneath the newspaper. So this is the girl that I put the shredded newspaper in yesterday, and when I put the newspaper in she immediately dived underneath the paper that was on the floor of the tub and got underneath all of the substrate. You can see now that she shoved it all over to this side and isn't actually using any of the substrate. So what I'm going to do is to remove that sheet of newspaper that she burrowed under and see whether I can get her to sit and make a nest in this shredded newspaper. It appears that they don't actually like the substrate very much. We saw the same thing from the girl when I put the cocoa husk in. She dived underneath the paper and I had to take the paper out in order to get her to use the cocoa husk. So let's take this paper out and just leave the shredded newspaper in there and see what this girl does. Okay, there we go. So I've taken the paper out and it's just the shredded newspaper in there now. It is a little bit damp, but she's got a couple of weeks to go, so that should dry out a little bit. I've got plenty of ventilation in here, so I'm just going to leave that and we'll see how she goes. And this is the vanilla clown girl that I put cocoa husk in, and she immediately dived under the paper as well. And again I had to take the paper out in order to get her to use the substrate. I actually had to force her to sit on the substrate so that she would make a nest. Otherwise she would just dive under the paper and sit on the floor of the tub and not use the substrate at all. She just avoided it. So this girl is now sitting on substrate, and yes, she has made a nest. So we're going to leave this one on this substrate until she lays her eggs. She's got a week or so left to go, but she doesn't look like she's coiled very comfortably there in that substrate. So I'm a little bit worried about what this girl is up to. It shouldn't stop her from laying her eggs, but she just doesn't look to be coiled as nicely as she did when she was laid on the floor of the tub with newspaper on top of her. So there we go. So here's a series of photographs showing snakes using substrate and hides in different ways. It took ages for this vanilla clown female to settle on this substrate, and she wasn't really happy until she'd shoved most of it away to one side. You can see once she shoved it away, she's coiled much more nicely than she was initially. So I get the impression that she didn't actually like this substrate very much. This is the female that I gave the laundry basket to, and we tried it in various orientations. She didn't get in it, on it, under it, as she preferred to wedge herself in the tight space behind it and use it to actually hide behind. You'll see in a moment that she also didn't use it to lay her eggs. And here's a series of photographs of snakes using their hides in ways that we possibly didn't intend. They can get on top of the hide. They can get behind the hide. This is a common one. They like to hide behind the hide and wedge themselves in the tight space at the back of the tub behind the hide. And they will also wedge themselves into the tight space between the hide and the top of the tub. This is another very common one. They enjoy the tight space and the feeling of a roof over their heads. And of course, sometimes they will use the hide as we intended, and they will actually get inside it. So I think, unfortunately, guys, the shredded newspaper is not going to work, and the reason is that as soon as it touches the water bowl, the paper is so absorbent it just soaks up all the water and everything in the tub ends up wet. Unlike the cocoa husk, where the cocoa husk goes in the water bowl but the rest of it doesn't actually soak up the moisture. And you can see this female is still sitting in a nice dry slot at the back, whereas this female is sitting in a wet tub, which is no good for laying eggs on. So she's going to go back onto paper as she was before. She has about a week and a half to go before she lays, so plenty of time to get scent into her tub. She's going to go into this new clean tub, and I expect that she's just going to go straight underneath the paper and curl up. So I'll give her some fresh water, we'll get her into a clean tub, and we'll consider the newspaper for the reasons that it just soaks up any water as soon as any of it touches the water bowl. We're going to consider the paper, the shredded paper, as a non-starter, at least for me with my setup. So that's the result of that one, guys. This desert ghost, yellow belly desert ghost female, is going to go into a refreshed tub and back onto just straight paper. You can see that this girl, who is on straight paper, has been curled up in the bottom of the tub quite nicely, quite content, quite relaxed in this tub, and that looks to be the most settled method, at least for me. She will lay her eggs on the bottom of this tub, and it'll be easy to deal with those eggs once they're laid, so we'll leave her to it. She's due this week, actually. So you can see how she's just curled up underneath the newspaper, and she's quite happy there. So this is the vanilla clown girl that we put on cocoa husk substrate, and you'll see it's made absolutely no difference to the rollout egg. She has lost one egg out of the coils, and you can see that she has actually made a nest much bigger than she needs, and she's shoved all the substrate to one side. Typically, we think of this as a snake burrowing down to get to the heat mat to provide more heat for her eggs. I don't use heat mats. She's burrowed down at the back of the tub, which is the safest place for her to lay her eggs, and that's typically where we put our heat mats, but that's purely incidental. And she's shoved all the substrate as far away as she possibly can. It took her several days to settle down on this substrate. She didn't like it, and she only really settled when she shoved it away and she got to the smooth bottom of the tub. She does not like the substrate, and she certainly does not want to lay her eggs on it, so she shoved it all away before she laid her eggs. Now, just a word about rollout eggs. This is a perfectly good egg. You'll see later it has good strong veins. It's purely an accident that the snake has kicked out this egg. A rollout egg is not kicked out of the snake's coils because the female knows there's something wrong with it. How on earth could she possibly know? I have a female currently incubating a clutch that has a bad egg on the top, and she's coiled around 6 good eggs and 1 bad one. I also have snakes that coil around slug eggs. She does not know whether it's a good egg or not. It's a pure accident. You'll also see when I put the eggs into the egg box here, because I am going to lift this female, that the embryos in the clutch that she is coiled around are all over the place. There's an embryo that's upside down. She also does not know which way up the eggs are, nor does she need to. She does not orient the clutch. How they lay is how they stay, and they all hatch. It's a myth that the embryo needs to be at the top. It doesn't occur that way in nature. Nature prevents these eggs from rolling around by gluing them together. Whether the embryo is at the top or at the bottom does not matter. The reason that rollout eggs frequently don't make it is because it's loose, and as the female moves around on this clutch of eggs, she's going to knock this rollout egg around. And if that rollout egg moves after the first 24 hours, it kills the embryo inside it. So that's the reason, I think, that the myth of rollout eggs has originated. They are good eggs, it's a pure accident, and they die simply because the female kicks them around when they need to stay as they were laid. Alright guys, you've seen this drill many times, so I'm not going to show you the egg box setup. I am actually going to lift this clutch, but this was an experiment in substrate. The female is quite angry, and you can see that she shoved the substrate right away from her nest area. She's made a much bigger nest than she actually needs, and so there's quite a big clear space. I can't put my fingers in because she's very aggressive, but you see there's a big clear space here that she doesn't actually need. And of course we have a rollout egg, so that didn't work to prevent rollout eggs. There is still a rollout egg. She is coiled nicely around the rest of the clutch. You can see that I've marked that rollout egg earlier to make sure that we get the right orientation and she didn't kick it around, which she hasn't. So that all looks good, but as an experiment in substrate, I think we can say it still depends on the female. If she's on her game, you don't get rollout eggs. If she's a little bit clumsy, then you still do. This egg is a good egg, I'm pretty sure. When we candle it, it will have veins, so no problems there. I'm going to lift this girl off now and we'll get a look at her clutch. This is a vanilla clown paired to a Pastave Enchi vanilla het clown male, so I'm hoping for super vanillas. I'm not going to maternally incubate this clutch, I'm going to incubate it in the incubator. So let's get this girl off, if she'll let me take her off. She is quite angry. You can see that she's pushing me away there, but we do need to get her off. Come on, girl. Here we go. So we've got her off there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 7 good eggs. Here is the female, and she is completely empty. There's no eggs left inside. We'll get a weight on her in a moment, but I'll put her in a bath of water. Let me just zoom you in on the eggs. How they lay is how they stay, so we'll get them marked up for way up. They're going to stay in exactly this orientation. We have 7 eggs and no slugs, just marking that down in the book. And most of these eggs are not actually stuck together. These ones here are actually stuck to the floor of the tub. So let's get these ones off. Get that rollout egg in there too. That one's off, nice and easy. So these ones are stuck to the floor of the tub. There we go, they're off. And so we got 3 eggs stuck together quite nicely, so they're going to go into the egg box just as they are, stuck together like that. So we'll lift those out. She of course is going to get a completely refreshed tub, and we'll ditch all of that substrate. Here is the egg box with 7 good eggs. I'll just take a picture of that and we'll candle them, although they are good eggs, so they're all going to get incubated. Again guys, it's not my normal method to reorient. So there are veins in that one. There are veins in that one. This one, I can't see any veins. There we go, down the side. So the embryo here is right round the corner in here. So definitely not embryo up. Good veins, good veins, good veins, good veins. So these all have good veins. This is the first and the last time I will candle these eggs during incubation. Once the embryo starts to develop and is large enough, all the membranes are fixed to the wall of the egg, but the embryo inside is not. Your snakes are super sensitive to light. If you go sticking a torch against the egg during its development to candle it again, that snake inside the egg is going to flinch away from the light. This is how we get tangled umbilicuses when the snake flinches and wraps itself around the umbilicus. As long as your eggs are still looking nice and white, they're perfectly okay. You do not need to candle them again. Candling them can actually do them harm. In my incubator, I use a simple sniff test. I don't even look inside the egg box. I don't open the egg box. I don't move the egg boxes. I don't do anything other than every few days have a quick sniff in the incubator. If I don't smell a bad egg, everything is good. Plenty of room around the sides. Nothing is going to touch the sides there. The eggs are all propping themselves up, so that can now go straight into the incubator. There's the clutch card, 7 eggs, no slugs. It's clutch number 6, and this is a vanilla clown female to a Pastavi Enchi vanilla het clown male, and we're hoping for super vanillas from this combination. And we'll just try and get a weight on this female. I have turned the fan back on, guys, because one of the disadvantages of keeping ambient temperature in the tropics here is the snake room is now at 29.5 and 85% humidity, and I am sweating buckets. So this girl was not a big girl when she started, and she's quite skinny now. And she is weighing 1546 grams less the weight of the hide. So 1546 minus 152. 1546 minus 152 is 49. So she is weighing 1,394 grams after laying those 7 eggs. So I'm guessing her weight at peak was somewhere around 2.2 kilos before she laid. Let me just show you the male that we used. This is a Pastave Enchi vanilla het clown male. So we'll see what comes out of that. Okay, for the purposes of this video, this is about the effect of substrates or hides on your snakes laying eggs. This girl did not lay inside the hide. She did not want to be in it, on it, or inside it when it was upside down. She stuffed herself into the space here at the back of the tub behind this tub here, and she has wedged herself in. So I'll just remove that, the hide, which she hasn't used. And you can see she's sitting on a nice clutch of eggs there, and there are no rollouts despite the fact that she's on paper. So let's just move this around and get a better look. She's a little bit upset, as they usually are. I think you would be too. I can tell that she's empty because she's coiled all around the eggs here, and her tail is on the outside of the coil. Normally if they're still laying, the tail will be inside the coils and she'll still be in the laying position, but this is obviously finished. It is 9 o'clock, so she did lay early hours of this morning, so we left her off and deal with her in the usual way. So let's just get a look here at what we've got. I am just checking to make sure she's empty off camera, and she is. And let me just zoom you in here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eggs. And if I zoom you in, you can see the egg here in the centre. Looks like that was the last one to be laid. Has got some paper stuck to it. These eggs are not stuck together, none of them are stuck together. But as usual, let's get them marked up as they lay is how they stay. And I'm just going to try and get as much of this paper off here as I can, which is actually not going to be very much. This is well stuck, so I'm actually just going to leave it. I don't think it will affect the egg at all. So let's get these into the egg box. Some of these do have a little bit of paper stuck to them. Some of them actually have a lot of paper stuck to them. That's a disadvantage of using paper. But I don't think it's going to have any effect. 4 more, and these are also stuck a little bit to the paper. And I've got 3 eggs here in a bit of a daisy chain, so I need to shuffle these around a little just to get them to sit nicely. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eggs. 8 eggs and 0 slugs. We're doing really well this year. Nice big clutches and no slugs. Can't beat that. Let's just candle these. Candle for the first and last time. Good veins down at the bottom. Good veins down here. Good veins. Yes. Yep, the embryo is way down the bottom here. Yes, that one's good. Yep, that one's good. The embryo's around the side here. And this one is also down the side there. So much for the female orienting eggs. She does not. There's the clutch card. This is a lavender clutch. A het to a visual. So hopefully we should get plenty of visuals here. And these will be due to hatch in early December. Let's get them off into the incubator. Okay guys, so let's not forget why we're actually here. I am breeding these animals and we're right in the middle of the breeding season. My incubator is almost full, room for a couple more clutches, and I do have a couple more clutches which are imminent, and I'll have clutches hatching in the near future as well. So we'll be back to more mainstream videos where we look at cutting eggs, identifying hatchlings, that sort of stuff. So stay tuned, thanks for watching, don't forget to share, like and subscribe.